If, like me, you kind of grew up on YouTube, you probably watched a lot of camera reviews. Now, I love certain camera reviews. There's one called Analog Insights, and it's all these like fancy film cameras. I find it very fascinating. But to be honest, camera reviews for professional photographers are completely pointless. And I want to tell you why, because hopefully it can stop you from wasting loads and loads of your time on the internet watching videos which will not serve you. Now, the first one is the reviewers. Most camera reviewers are not professional photographers. Now, I'm saying most, I think all, but I can't be certain of that, but most. If you've watched a camera review in the last week, it wouldn't have been by a professional commercial photographer because we don't make them. And because of this, they're reviewing it from some different perspective. They're reviewing it from a generalist perspective. And if we go back to the last time I watched camera reviews, I was toying between a 5D Mark II and a Canon 6D. And from all the reviews, all I could work out was the 6D was lighter and slightly better. And that's what I came to a conclusion of. However, once I borrowed a 6D and a 5D Mark II, I very quickly realised the things that matters for pros weren't mentioned in these reviews. First of all, the 6D, it didn't have a PC sync port. That's very important because if for whatever reason hot shoe triggers aren't working, you need to have a backup PC sync. Now you can get a little hot shoe thing with a PC sync on the side, but it can blow the whole circuit board. So PC sync, very useful. The next thing was the maximum shutter speed. At the time I was shooting portraits, I often needed 0.008 of a second. It didn't have that, but the reviewers didn't deem that an important stat. There was also an issue, which isn't reported in the stats, or specs even, and that's talking about shutter sync speed. Mine would sync at 250th of a second in landscape and 200th in portrait, don't ask me why. And even though the 6D should have been the same, it wasn't. You're really stuck to 125th to 180th. So, you know, it's important to know that the people reviewing these are not reviewing it for us, the professionals. They're reviewing it for the general consumer, the hobbyist, someone who wants to go out and buy kit. It's not for us. The things that matter to us don't matter to 99.9% of the general public, which is why they're often not specs that are advertised. And speaking of specs, how many specs are actually useful for us? If you think about it, like when I'm looking at cameras, all I need to know is what is the resolution and what is the bit depth. They're the only specs that matter. ISO doesn't matter, focus doesn't matter, a million custom modes don't matter. Most of my camera's menu system has never been seen by me. All I use is my shutter speed, my ISO and my aperture. My ISO is 100, my shutter speed is 125th, and my aperture is whatever I need for that shot. Nothing else matters. So if it's got the right bit depth and the right resolution at the right price, then that's a camera for me. There's nothing else that I need to know about. And most reviews don't even cover bit depth, you know, apart from video camera reviews, they really cover bit depth because it's a new thing to get good bit depth at an affordable quality. Like this camera here has great bit depth for next to nothing. It's a Blackmagic 6K, but for stills, they don't really mention it because either you're buying medium format or you're not. That's kind of the only thing. It's like full frame or medium format. What are you going to go for? They're the only specs that really have any bearing on what we're doing. So what's the answer to this then? Well, if you do want a camera, the best thing to do is to go to a shop and ask for it as a rental, and they will almost always refund you the rental fee if you buy it. Or if you want to test out a few, I went down the Flash Centre recently. I just borrowed a few of their cameras and I set up some stuff, took some shots, brought the raw files home, and I had to play around with them. Watching camera reviews, if you want to be a professional photographer, is just a waste of your time. It'll make you feel like you're doing something positive. It'll make you feel like you're working, but you're not. You're just not working. Go and shoot. Really, you're buying a Canon 5D or a Phase 1. Like there's not really much in between in this world. There's a million cameras in between, but in terms of like specs, goes 5D SR, Fujifilm if you haven't got enough for a Phase, and then Phase, or Hasselblad if you can tolerate their software. But like there's really just not that many options out there, and trying to convolute it with all these different models and brands and stuff just doesn't help anybody. So save your time. Buy a 5D SR if you've got more money, buy a Fuji 100 if you've got loads of money, buy a Phase 1 IQ3 150. See you soon, bye bye.